Hello, my friend. Welcome again back to Mulenge Speaks series. Today we are continuing with our clips, and we'll be talking about clip number 13. We'll also continue where we left over last time. I believe we're talking about how the Banyarwanda now they have left the Bafuliro kingdom. Now they entered into the Bavira kingdom, and they settled in two areas. One in the middle of Piedmont, in the middle plateau, in the area called Galie, Kishembwe, Munanira. And then after a while, they start moving away. They push toward the west, the northwest, and the west south, and they ended at the occidental border of the Sheferi of the Bavira, and in particular in three villages: Bijombo, Kianjovu, and Masango. And so now they have settled. They have so many cattle in their care. They have stole all the cattle that were given by the Bavira and the Bafulero through two contracts, the Kugabira and the Kubisa contract. And so they want to settle. Remember, they are semi-nomadic people. Now they want to settle. And then after a while, they continue to push toward the Babembe and the Barega territory. Now they are controlling three areas. First, they have the name. They are coming from Mulenge. Now they're in the Bavira territory in the middle. And there they also have a presence in the Babembe and the Barega presence. So now they are working to look for a place that they will call their own as a capital. And the capital here will be chosen as Bijombo. And Bijombo is in the Bavira country, as described by George West. And so how do they define Mulenge? Remember, Mulenge is not in the Bavira territory. Mulenge is in the Bafulero territory. But the way they define Mulenge is something very interesting, unless you pay attention. If you are a Western person, or if you live in America, in Canada, in Europe, or Australia, you understand, you just read what they bring to you, and then you think that that's what it means. But let me repeat again how they define Mulenge. Remember, Mulenge, as I said, is in the Bafulero territory in the east. Now, they are claiming Bijombo as their capital, but they keep the name of Mulenge. So they define Mulenge as Mulenge is located behind the high plateau, or Haut Plateau in French, the range of mountains Mitumba. Geographically, Mulenge is limited from the east by the Rusizi River Valley and Lake Tanganyika, from the west by equatorial forest of Itombwe Lulenge community, from the north by the Luwinja community, and from the south by Ngaja community. So Mulenge is approximately 300 kilometers and counted 250,000 population. So they are trying to make a state. They are trying to make a country of their own. And then now, if you were to make a map, if you were to draw a map of a 300-kilometer square, it's not even square. So how would you draw that map? That means all the villages, all the groupement, all the combination of the Bavira territory and the Bafulero territory will be included in the Mulenge, including one half of Babembe and Barega will be included in that territory, the new territory now that they call Mulenge. And if you remember the map that I showed you in the George West book, if you remember those maps, I showed you that the maps that are in those books are only the map that belong to the Bavira and Bafulero. But here, the Banyarwanda are drawing a new map. And this map has been embraced by so many Western scholars, researchers, UN experts, even some state leaders. But that's not a matter now, because we are trying to debunk every lie that we can have possible around us. But but it will be up to you to make a decision if you continue to embrace the lie or try to embrace the truth. And so let us continue and see where they are moving with this new capital of Bijombo. So we remember that we are at the crossroad between the truth and lie, between courage and cowardice, between sympathy and empathy, between ignorance and naivete. So it is a choice that we have to make, because there's no way around. We have to make a choice to continue to accept and to be deceived by lies, or to read and get informed about what is going on, what's the history of the country, of the people that are fighting to keep their indigenous right. So in those clips, we show you some proofs about how they entered in those territory. Now they are established in those territory, which we saw that they first entered into the Bavira territory in 1881. One person entered from Rwanda in 1881. And then from 1960, there were already 1,000. And so we saw in the course of years and time, after each year, how they were crossing into the Congo or the Belgium Congo, and the Congo Democratic, and the Zaire and the Congo Democratic. So we saw how they have been crossing year after year. And so between 1881 to 1960, we had a great number of Banyarwanda. And very interestingly, they are not Hutu, they are only Tutsi. And so today, every Tutsi who is in Congo, in Eastern Congo, is called a person from Mulenge. So since there is no census, since the country does not count its population, so there's no doubt that everybody who is in that part is from Mulenge. So every Munyarwanda who is in that part is called from Mulenge. And then it's easy for us, or for you who is outside that area, to accept, to embrace that truth. But it is nothing but lie. And so the Belgian and George Wells told us that even though they are in great number in this area, but they don't live, this area does not belong to them. The country does not belong to them. George Wells and Depelchen saw in so many areas, they repeated the same truth, that the Banyarwanda and the Banyarwanda sub-chief and their chief, the village chief, they live in Bavira and Bafulero territory, and they are subject of the Bafulero and the Bavira chief, or king, or roi in French. And so we know, for example, in the Fuliru land where they came from, some of them will still remain there. And so we have, for example, in the Fuliru land, we have 5 villages that are occupied, or they are run by Banyarwanda. In the groupement of Kigoma, we have 2 villages that are run by the Banyarwanda. For example, the village of Kahololo and Bibangwa, they are run by Banyarwanda, but those are villages. And so the chief of groupement gave them power to run that village, not because they are coutumier, or they are notable, or they are customary leaders, but because they respected the authority of the king. And so to say thank you for respecting our customs and traditions, so they gave them power, they gave them authority to run a village. And in those villages, there is a mixture of population that live there: Bafulero, Bavira, Banyarwanda, Barundi. But because you have a power to run a village, it does not make you a customary person, because customary law and rights are different from administrative authority. So we have in Kahololo and in Babangwa, we have 2 Banyarwanda that are running those villages. And so, for example, in Kahololo, the Munyarwanda who is leading there, who is running that village, is called Muhimiriza Israel. And in Bibangwa, in Kahololo, the Munyarwanda who is leading there is called Buditu. Meanwhile, in Bibangwa, the Munyarwanda who is running there is called Muhimiriza Israel. And then in the Lemera groupement, we have two other villages that are run by the Banyarwanda out of the 35 villages that we have in each groupement. So in Bijojo and in Rurambo, those are two villages that belong to the groupement of Bafulero, the groupement of Lemera in the chieftaincy or in the kingdom of Lemera. And those two villages are also run by the Banyarwanda. But in either groupement, they're still under the authority of the chef de groupement, who, according to the customs, must come from the royal leading clan, which is the Bahamba in the Bafulero country, or the Benelenge in the Bavira country. And so we can see that even though they are claiming to be a great number in the Bavira area, but since they have not yet received any authority to run a groupement, so they have been fighting for years, for decades now, to have one that they will call their own. And so they have been fighting for this groupement of Bijombo. So Bijombo was a village, as it's still a village in the groupement used to belong to the groupement of Kalungwe. And so in 1954, while George West was there, they start fighting. They start fighting to have that groupement as their own, based on their number. But they could not succeed until in 1979, when the government, at this time, the government surrendered and then accepted to give the authority to the Mwami of the land to open another groupement. And so they created a groupement of Mulenge, of Bijombo in 1979. But that groupement was given to the chief, to the chef or roi or king, to nominate the person who will be leading that groupement. Unfortunately, he did not nominate a Munyarwanda. He nominated, according to the customs and practice and the tradition, he nominated a person from the royal leading clan, which is the clan of Benelenge. And so, for example, the first chef de groupement of Bijombo who was nominated in 1979, I have their names here. You see that all of them, they are not Banyarwanda. The first one was Tete Mutimbuzi Patrice. The second was Musabwa. The third one was Matayabo Nyambuza. The fourth one was Fuanga Mafizi. The fifth one was Lenge Shengelo Eugene. And the sixth one was Jogo Waziri. So all these people, all these leaders were nominated by the king of the Vira territory or Vira country, and they were all members of the royal leading clan, which is the Benelenge. So, but during all this time, all these years, until 1996, when the rebellion broke against Mobutu regime, the people that were leading that groupement Bijombo were all from the Vira clan, except one who was the seventh one, Tundwa Sangiza, who was from another Vira clan, but he was not from the Benelenge clan. And so, according to the custom, they could not nominate a Munyarwanda because there are many in numbers. Because in customary laws or traditional, numbers don't count. What counts is the tradition. What does the tradition say? And that's what the Mwami, the guarantor of the culture and the language and the land and the people, that's what he was supposed to do. And that's what he did. And that's what the authority that was given by him, by the Minister of the Administrative or Local Territorial Administration in 1979. But the Banyarwanda were very upset, very angry because they were not nominated and because the government did not enforce that request, their request to have their own groupement. And so when the war broke in 1996 against Mobutu regime, they took that chance. And so at that particular time, so everybody ran. Remember, when there is a war, everybody ran. And so when they ran, so they left a vacuum. There was a vacuum in that groupement. When there was a vacuum, so they took over. That's where we saw Obed Sebasonera took over and became the chief of groupement. So that's the first time we're having a Munyarwanda sitting on the groupement in both the Bafulero and the Bavira country or kingdom. But he only sat there because there was a vacuum and because there was the context of war did not allow the customary, the rightful persons to sit on that groupement or even the other one because everybody was running. But the fact remains that because they took over that groupement, it does not mean that the groupement belong to them or the land belong to them. But that's what they have been always looking for, to have access to land, to have access to a place where they call their own, and then from there claim the indigenous right, which is already defined into the constitution of each of the three republics that the Congolese people have had since its foundation. And so the Congolese of origin, or les Congolais d'origine, are defined in the constitution. But before we can go there and explain and see in detail what does those articles of those constitutions say, I want to leave you here with two definitions, how they claim, how they bring up the history of their settlement in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So I will present you two letters, two paragraphs in two letters that were written by leaders of the Banyarwanda living in the South Kivu. And one of the group, the Mutualité Ubumwe that lives here in the United States, they wrote a letter to leader of states, including the current USA President Joe Biden. They wrote a letter to them on August 31st this year. And there was another one that they sent from Congo. They sent on September 29 to the to His Excellency Monsieur President, or the President of DRC. So let me start with the letter of September 29. In that letter they say, in fact, His Excellency Monsieur the President, despite the fact that the Banyamulenge are Congolese of origin in full, and that the history clearly establishes that they are the first occupants of the Haut Plateau d'Uvira, Fizi, and Mwenga, where they permanently established their first bovine pâturage toward the end of the 19th century, as it was recorded by George West. So this is what they are saying. They are saying that we are citing here George West. George West said that we, the Banyarwanda, now calling ourselves people from Mulenge, were the first occupant of the whole plateau in Uvira, Mwenga, and Fizi. And then at the end of 19th century, which is between the 1881 and 19, as we have demonstrated in the previous clips, we established our first villages. But in the previous letter that they sent to the Western, because every time when they want to inform the African, they use a different language. But when they want to inform the Western, they use a different language too. And so now in the letter that they sent to Biden and other international leaders, this is what they wrote. This is the letter from August 31st this year. I quote, "We are one of the Congolese indigenous ethnic group which reside in the confluence of three administrative territories of Fizi, Uvira, and Mwenga in the South Kivu province. Pastoralists, the Banyamulenge have been living in the DRC for more than 5 centuries, since the Berlin Conference of 1885 that divided Africa found them already in what is today called the DRC." So, to the President of the Democratic Republic, they are confirming what George West wrote, that they arrived in the Congo, the Belgium Congo, between 1881 and 1900. which is toward the end of the 19th century. But when they wrote to the USA president, the Canadian prime minister, or the French president, or German chancellor, or the British prime minister, they give a different language. Now they are telling them that they arrived in Congo for more than 5 centuries. And see, if we count from today, we are in the 21st. If we go back, that means they arrived in Congo in the 16th centuries. But imagine if you arrived in 16th centuries and you don't have a king, you don't have a land, you don't have a kingdom. While in that time, we know that the kingdom, Central Kingdom, Rwanda, were already existing on the other side of the Lake Kivu and the Rusizi River. But how come for 5 centuries, they don't have a king, they don't have a land? And the only oral tradition that we have was recorded and put together by their historian, Kagame. Even Kagame have never written, if you read all his books, he never wrote that there were a kingdom by the Banyarwanda that were existing on the other side, on the western part of the Kivu Lake and the Rusizi River. And so, my dear friend, as we are going to see in the next clip, how does the Constitution define the indigenous people in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Which article, how do they define it? Because if the Banyarwanda here are claiming that they have been in these regions of the Bavira and Bafulero region since the 16th centuries, but they can't prove by any means that they had a land, they had a king, they had traditional language, even the language that they speak is the Kinyarwanda, is not any other language, is the Kinyarwanda pure and simple. We can prove that, we have been proving that the language that they speak is Kinyarwanda. They have no link to Mulenge. They are Banyarwanda. Their clan are the same clan that exists in Rwanda. And then they continue to lie. They continue to deceive you because you are not living there, because you don't know the books, you don't know the history of the land. But we have been presenting you here. So I'm going to leave you with these two contradictory versions of their history. When one letter that they addressed to the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, they acknowledge that they have been in Congo since the end of the 19th century. And then another letter, when they write to the Western leaders, they say they have been in Congo since the 16th century. So I don't know if you can believe either one of them or can wait and see how we define who is the indigenous people or person in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so I invite you to wait. Let us define the Constitution. Let us see what is in the Constitution. And so we can make our mind if you have to continue to support the lies, or we have to tell them, stop lying to people. Stop deceiving your children. Stop educating the children about something that you are making up, something that you are lying about. So stay tuned. I hope to see you next time. And for now, don't forget to like, don't forget to read the description, and also make a comment and share. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.